What would happen if a few people discovered a strange island where time itself didn't move? On this island, something unbelievable happens. Anyone who sets foot there stops aging. Seconds, minutes, years, they all lose meaning. For the outside world, time keeps running normally. But for the people trapped on this island, it simply stops. But hidden behind this miracle lies a dark and dangerous secret, something that no one has ever uncovered. What is this island's true mystery? Let's find out. Right from the beginning. The story starts with a woman named Angela, a single mother trying to rebuild her life after her husband's death. She runs a small restaurant inside her house to raise her 3 children, her daughter Wendy and twin boys Douglas and James. A railway track runs very close to their restaurant, and the children often spend hours watching trains pass by. Business had been going well for Angela recently, and one day she hosted a birthday party for a boy named Thomas, who was turning 7. The restaurant was full of laughter and noise, but during the celebration, some other kids began teasing Thomas. Upset and humiliated, he quietly slipped away while everyone else was distracted. Outside the restaurant, the railway track glimmered under the sun, and in his anger, Thomas climbed onto one of the trains. The only person who saw him was little Wendy, standing by the window. Time passed. 6 long years went by since that day, but Wendy could never forget what she saw. Thomas had never been found. The whole town searched, the police, neighbors, even nearby villages. But it was as if he had vanished from the world. Posters still hung on walls, describing him as the 7-year-old who went missing. By now, he should have been 13, and Thomas wasn't the only one. Over the years, several others from the same town had disappeared without a trace. No clues, no witnesses, no answers. Now Wendy was 9 years old. She and her 2 brothers had started helping their mother in the restaurant. Together, this small family of 4 lived a simple but happy life. One quiet night, as they all sat after dinner, Angela began telling her children about her past. How before they were born, she loved traveling alone to new cities and towns. She was brave, curious, and always chasing adventures. But life changed after marriage. Then after the birth of her 3 children and the sudden death of her husband, all the responsibilities of the house fell on her shoulders. Angela smiled softly as she said she didn't regret it. She was proud to work hard for her children. But Wendy could see the tiredness in her eyes. She realized her mother no longer had any time for herself. No time to travel, to rest, or to dream. That night, a new thought settled in Wendy's young mind. Once people grow up, they get trapped in responsibilities. So dreams must be lived before that. The next day after school, Wendy and her brothers were fishing near a quiet river. But Wendy's thoughts kept wandering. She suddenly ran off, chasing a train that was passing by. She tried to grab it, but it was too fast and vanished down the tracks. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. When you grow up, you don't even have time to go out. That single thought made Wendy restless. That night, while everyone else was asleep, Wendy lay awake staring out the window. She wanted to see the world, to escape the routine that trapped adults. Then suddenly she heard the faint rumble of a train passing near their house. She peeked outside and saw something strange. A boy her age, riding playfully on top of the moving train. Curiosity sparked in her eyes. Wendy slipped out of the house quietly and ran toward the tracks to see who the boy was and where he was going. Just then, her brothers James and Douglas woke up and followed her. Moments later, all 3 of them climbed onto the train together. The boy introduced himself as Peter. He was cheerful, mysterious, and spoke as if he knew something they didn't. He told them that he could take them to a place where time never runs out, where no one ever grows old or runs out of hours in the day. But, Peter said, you'll have to trust me completely. The train sped through dark forests and glowing tunnels until it reached a long bridge over a wide river. Peter turned to them and said, "This is the way. To reach that world, we have to jump." The siblings hesitated, but their curiosity was stronger than fear. One by one, they leapt from the moving train into the river below. There, a small wooden boat was waiting, steered by another boy who seemed to have been expecting them. He helped Peter and the others climb aboard and began rowing silently downstream. The journey through the misty river felt endless, until finally a faint glow appeared on the horizon. Before them rose a breathtaking island, covered in strange lights and lush green forests. But as they drew closer, the water around them began to make eerie, otherworldly sounds. Soft whispers mixed with deep echoes, as if the river itself was alive. Peter looked at them and said quietly, "Don't be afraid. That's the voice of Mother, the being who controls this island. She's not human. She's something far older." Wendy and her 2 brothers were amazed the moment they stepped onto the island. It was breathtaking, filled with bright green trees, colorful plants, and strange glowing flowers. In the middle stood a huge volcano, its smoke rising softly into the golden sky, making the whole island look like something out of a dream. Peter smiled and told them to follow him. "You're not the only ones here," he said. "Many children live on this island. We've built our own world here, our own little community, As they walked along a narrow forest path, talking and looking around in wonder, another child appeared from the distance. The sight made Wendy and her brothers freeze in shock. It was Thomas, the same boy who had gone missing 6 years ago. Wendy couldn't believe her eyes. Thomas looked exactly the same as he did back then. Still 7 years old, still with the same smile, as if not a single day had passed. But how was that possible? When he disappeared, Wendy was just a small girl. Now she was 9, and her brothers had grown too. Yet Thomas hadn't changed at all. It was like time had stopped for him. Evening slowly arrived, and the island began to glow with warm, strange lights. The children saw that there were dozens of other kids running around, laughing, playing, climbing trees, swimming, and building huts. It looked peaceful, almost magical. Wendy and her brothers decided to stay there for a few days. They thought they could explore and then return home before their mother got too worried. The next morning, Wendy woke up to the sound of waves and saw Peter standing quietly near the shore, staring out at the ocean. Curious, she went to him. When he noticed her, Peter said softly, "It's time you knew the truth about this island." He led her into the shallow water, and together they dove beneath the surface. What Wendy saw there made her heart race. A strange glowing creature was moving gracefully under the water. Its body shimmered with light, like liquid glass, and its shape kept changing. Sometimes it looked like a jellyfish, sometimes like pure energy. Peter explained, "This being isn't from Earth. It came here long ago inside a meteorite that fell from the sky. Since then, it has lived here, and it made this island its home." He told Wendy that this creature wasn't just an alien. It came from another dimension. "You see," Peter said, "we humans live in 3 dimensions: length, width, and height. But this creature comes from the 4th dimension, the dimension of time itself. Because of that, the alien could see and control time as easily as humans see space. For it, past, present, and future are all the same. When it arrived, its power spread through the entire island and slowed time down to almost nothing. That's why no one here ages." Wendy realized the truth. All the missing children from her town, including Thomas, hadn't been kidnapped or lost. They had somehow found their way to this place where time stands still. Each of them came from different years, maybe even different centuries. Peter then revealed something even more shocking. "I first came here in the 19th century, he said quietly. "Since then, I've never aged. I've been this age for more than 100 years. He looked at Wendy seriously. "But there's one rule. Time will not move for you only as long as Mother, that creature, allows it. You have to trust her completely. If your trust ever breaks, even for a moment, time catches up to you. And when that happens, your age increases. Not slowly, but all at once, in seconds." Days passed, and Wendy and her brothers slowly became used to life on the mysterious island. It was peaceful, almost magical. There was no rush, no danger, no need to worry about anything. Food and water seemed to appear on their own, gifts from the alien being everyone called Mother. Douglas and James loved it there. They made friends, climbed trees, and laughed more than ever before. One evening, Douglas told Wendy, "Why should we go back? We can live here forever. We'll never grow old." But Wendy didn't agree. She still remembered their real mother waiting at home. "We can't stay here forever," she said softly. "We promised we'd return." Still, days kept passing, and the island made it easy to forget time. Then one night, while Wendy was sleeping in a small hut made of leaves, she heard a rustling sound. She opened her eyes and saw a shadowy figure, an old man, stealing her food. Startled, she called out, but the man turned and ran into the forest. Wendy chased after him through the misty trees until she reached a strange part of the island she had never seen before. When she told Peter about the old man the next morning, his expression changed. He looked uneasy. "That man," Peter said slowly, "was once a child, just like us. But he lost faith in Mother, and when that happens, time comes back, all at once." He aged in just a few hours. Wendy was shocked, but Peter didn't want to talk more about it. To distract her, he suggested they go out on the sea. Later that day, Wendy, James, Douglas, and Peter took a small boat and rowed out over the clear, calm water. The sunlight reflected like liquid gold, and for a while, everything felt peaceful again. The children laughed, splashing and swimming around the boat. But then, suddenly, Wendy and James noticed something. Douglas wasn't coming up. They waited, called out, and then dove into the water to search for him. Minutes passed, then hours. The water grew darker and colder. Other children came to help, diving again and again. But Douglas was nowhere to be found. By sunset, everyone knew the truth. Douglas was gone. James was shattered. Douglas wasn't just his brother, he was his twin. They had never been apart, not even for a day. Now he sat silently, staring at the sea, unable to believe it. That night, Wendy tried to comfort him, but he said nothing. The next morning, when James woke up, he screamed. One of his hands had turned wrinkled and gray, like an old man's. The veins bulged, the skin sagged. Wendy realized what had happened. After losing Douglas, James had lost his faith in Mother. And when trust breaks, time returns, cruelly fast. Desperate, James said, "If I cut it off, maybe it won't spread." Peter hesitated but finally agreed to try, saying no one had ever dared to do it before. Together, they bound his arm and tried to stop the aging from spreading. But Wendy was terrified. She feared the wound would get infected. She decided they needed help, someone who had lived through the same curse. So she set out through the forest with James, searching for the old man she had seen before. After hours of walking, they found him near the edge of the island. His hair was white, his face full of wrinkles, but his eyes were still sharp. When Wendy begged for help, the old man nodded and said, "Come with me." He led them to another side of the island, a place Peter had never mentioned. Here, Wendy saw dozens of other people, old, frail, and quiet, living in rough huts made of wood and leaves. These were the ones who had lost trust in Mother. They aged rapidly, forgotten by the children's paradise. Wendy noticed how different this place was. There was no magic here, no fruits falling from trees, no clean water waiting by the huts. The people here had to fish for food and survive on their own. Mother no longer cared for them. The older people living on the far side of the island told Wendy a shocking secret. They believed that if they could find the alien creature, the one living deep in the sea, and kill it, then everything would return to normal. Time would start flowing again, and everyone would get back the years they had lost. They had been secretly planning how to capture and destroy the creature. In the meantime, they had treated James's hand, wrapping it tightly to stop the bleeding. But by now, both Wendy and James had realized the truth. The island that once felt like paradise was actually something far darker. What seemed magical was only an illusion. Consumed by anger and grief after losing his twin brother, James began working with the elders. He wanted revenge. "If we kill that thing," he said, "we can finally go home." Soon he came up with a plan. He told everyone, "Mother only appears to those who trust her, the children. If we take those children away, she'll have no choice but to come out." Wendy was horrified. She tried to stop James, begging him not to do this, but his heart was filled with hatred and pain. He blamed the alien for Douglas's death, and nothing could change his mind. He was determined to end it, even if it meant destroying everything. So with the elders, James led a group to the other side of the island, where the young children lived, to capture them. Wendy, realizing what was about to happen, ran ahead to warn the others. She shouted for them to hide, but it was too late. By the time she reached the children's camp, the adults had already arrived. Chaos followed, crying, shouting, and the sound of running feet. When it was over, the elders had taken all the children away. Only Peter managed to escape, hiding behind the rocks. When Wendy found him, they climbed a nearby hill and looked down toward the beach. From there, they could see the elders and James gathering the captured children by the sea, forcing them onto boats. Their plan was clear: to use the children as bait so that the alien, Mother, would appear to rescue them. As Wendy watched, her eyes caught sight of a tall man standing near the water, bending a sharp metal hook into shape. He moved slowly, his body trembling with age. When he turned, Wendy gasped. One of his arms was missing. It was her brother, James. He had aged rapidly, his hair now gray, his face lined with deep wrinkles. The boy who once dreamed of living forever had become a bitter old man, consumed by revenge against the being he once trusted. Meanwhile, under James's command, all the adults began loading the captured children onto a large boat and pushing it out toward the open sea. They believed this would finally force the alien, Mother, to appear. From the cliffs above, Peter turned to Wendy and said urgently, "We have to stop them. We have to save everyone before it's too late." Without wasting a second, the two of them ran toward a hidden forest path, a shortcut that led straight down to the beach. As they rushed through the trees, Wendy suddenly stopped. Standing in the distance was someone she never thought she'd see again. Douglas, alive and unharmed. Her eyes filled with tears as she ran to him and hugged him tightly. Douglas explained that the day he disappeared in the water, he had been swept by the current to the other side of the island and couldn't find his way back. Wendy quickly told him everything that had happened, how James thought he had drowned, how he lost faith in Mother, and how he was now leading the adults to kill the alien. Douglas's face turned pale. "We have to stop him," he said. The three of them hurried toward the dock where the boat was tied. When they reached it, the deck seemed empty. Carefully, Wendy and Douglas climbed aboard and began untying the frightened children. But just as they were freeing the last few, heavy footsteps came from behind. The elders had returned. Before Wendy or Douglas could react, they were grabbed and dragged toward their leader. When they reached the front of the deck, they froze. A frail old man stepped out of the shadows, his back bent, his face deeply wrinkled, and a metal hook glinting in his hand. It was James. He looked at them in disbelief, his eyes filling with tears. Seeing Douglas alive broke him completely. "You're alive," he whispered, his voice shaking. "All this time, I thought you were gone." But then his sadness turned into anger. "Because of you, I lost everything," he shouted. "I trusted that creature. I believed her lies. And now look at me. He raised his trembling hand, the skin paper thin, his hair completely white. She stole my years, my life. Wendy tried to calm him, but James was too far gone. His plan was already in motion, and outside something enormous was stirring beneath the waves. A strange vibration filled the air. The water around the boat began to glow, and a deep, otherworldly hum echoed across the sea. Everyone turned toward the sound. The alien, Mother, was rising from the depths. The elders gripped their weapons, ready to strike. The children screamed and pleaded, "Don't hurt her! If you kill Mother, we'll grow old. Time will come back." But the adults didn't listen. The tension grew unbearable. Several brave children jumped into the glowing water, trying to protect the creature they saw as their guardian. And then, just as the alien's glowing form surfaced beside the boat, it was already too late. According to James's plan, the adults finally managed to trap the alien in a huge net spread across the sea. Once it was caught, James climbed to the upper deck and began attacking it with sharp spears and metal hooks, sending violent waves crashing down. After a fierce struggle, the alien, the so-called Mother, was mortally wounded and sank beneath the glowing water. For a moment, everyone cheered. James believed he had finally won, but then they all realized something was terribly wrong. None of the adults were getting younger. Their wrinkles stayed, their gray hair remained. The flow of time had only resumed from that moment forward, not reversed. The years they had already lost were gone forever. It became painfully clear. Killing the alien hadn't restored their youth. It had only made them mortal again. From now on, everyone on the island would age like normal humans. But for the adults, especially James, it was too late. His body was frail and weak, and he knew he only had a few years left. Wendy, heartbroken, turned to Peter and the younger children. "There's no reason to stay here anymore," she said gently. "You all need to go back to your homes, to your families. This place was never meant to keep us forever." Before they left, James called Wendy and Douglas to his side. His voice trembled as he said, "I don't want our mother to see me like this. Tell her I've gone away. Tell her I couldn't come back." He looked at Douglas, his twin, and smiled sadly. "You were always the stronger one. Live your life well, little brother." With that, James said goodbye. He chose to remain on the island with the other aged survivors, to live out the rest of his days in peace, far from the world that would never understand their story. Wendy, Douglas, Peter, and the remaining children sailed away from the island and returned to their homes. None of them ever spoke of what happened there. They knew no one would believe them, that there existed a place where time itself stood still. Years passed. Wendy grew up, got married, and became a mother. One night, sitting beside her young daughter, she told her the story of a mysterious island where time does not move, the place that had changed her life forever. Her voice softened as she finished the tale. Though she built a new life, a quiet sadness always lingered in her heart, the sorrow of losing James. And the film ends on that bittersweet note, as Wendy gazes out her window, remembering the island where time once stopped. So if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more such mysterious and unforgettable tales.
अब आओ ना फिर से मिल जाओ ना फिर से जलाओ ना मुझे मिटाओ ना यूं दिल से अब आओ ना फिर से मिल जाओ ना फिर से जलाओ ना मुझे मिटाओ ना यूं दिल से कोई प्यार ना दे यूं जैसे मुझको चाहती है तू ज़माने के जैसी न बन मेरे यार जैसी है तू ज़माना जलाता मुझे लगाती गले फिर से तू मैं गिर के उठा हूँ अभी हर चीज सिखाती है तू मैं लिख आया कहानी अपनी जो बीती जिंदगानी अपनी जो खोया मैंने है वो खोया मैं रात जाग के हूँ रोया मैं लिख आया कहानी अपनी जो बीती जिंदगानी अपनी जो खोया मैंने है वो खोया मैं रात जाग के हूँ रोया 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 ख्वाहिश मेरी रह गई तुझसे मिलूं मैं कभी तुझको मैं प्यार दूं और बेशुमार दूं दिल तो जला है बहुत इसकी सजा है बहुत, फिर भी तेरा ही रहा, मेरी नहीं मानता। जितना भी चाहूं तुम्हें मिलना है दर्द मुझे, होता है क्या इस तरह कोई भी इश्क यहाँ। तुम जो मेरी ना बनी किसको बताता फिरूं, ये दाग दिल अपना किसको दिखाता फिरूं। वक्त बदलता है सबका, तुझको तो इसका पता था, फिर मुंह क्यों मोड़ गई थी, मुझको यूं छोड़ गई थी। साथ निभाना था मैंने, दिल भी जलाना था मैंने, फिर क्यों मेरी ना बनी थी और ये सजा बन गई थी। जिसको मैं जीता रहा था, ये दर्द पीता रहा था। ऐसी निशानी है तू, ऐसी कहानी है तू। मैं लिख आया कहानी अपनी जो बीती जिंदगानी, अपनी जो खोया मैंने है वो खोया मैं रात जाग के हूँ रोया। मैं लिख आया कहानी अपनी जो बीती जिंदगानी, अपनी जो खोया मैंने है वो खोया मैं रात जाग के हूँ रोया रोया रोया। अब इसके पार है तेरा मेरा ठिकाना, अब इसके पार है तेरा मेरा ठिकाना, अब इसके पार है फिर तुझसे दिल लगाना, अब इसके पार है।